The Rugby World Cup final is over. The Springboks won. Here is my recap for the weekend. Hi everyone, so South Africa did it. They actually got it right. The Boks won the Rugby World Cup. What an amazing feeling, what an amazing game to watch. It was just a great display from Sia and his Chargers, and subsequently the Boks got it right. They got it right. The team got Team of the Year, Rassie got Coach of the Year, Peter Seftetue got Player of the Year, and all of them well deserved. Remember to subscribe if you do like the content. Let's get into the game. So South Africa beat England by a convincing margin, 32-12. In a victory in a final, that's a big score. A 20-point margin, also very wide. On SkinnyBru, only one person got close to it. Being the final prediction leaderboard is Talon, Fulster, and Stormer 2010. You are the top three in the predictions. And then on the fantasy leaderboard, we have Yankee Toffee, Mitch, and an XQS or something like that. Like I say every week, I don't know how to say it. But anyway, you guys are the top three in both. Well done to you. You got it right every single week. Good for you. Let's have a closer look at the game. I'm still very excited, still very happy. So if I'm a bit biased, forgive me this week. I'm just so happy that the Springboks won. I mean, look, Rassie Erasmus, what a brilliant tactician. Changing the tactics and the strategy just in the final. No one expected that to happen. I didn't expect that to happen. I expected an aerial bombardment from Faf de Klerk, and finally we saw some running rugby from the Springboks. And they said in the week before, Rassie said, no, we can't change the game plan, it's impossible, there's only 2 weeks, and mentioning that Eddie Jones is a guy playing mind games always in interviews and stuff like that. So he just played it perfectly, actually playing mind games himself and actually outfoxing Eddie Jones, which is a big deal. The game was brutal. It showed from the 3rd minute with Sinclair going off with a concussion. Early in the game he got knocked out from hitting Maro Itoje, and yeah, from there on their scrums were under pressure as well because there wasn't a scrum yet. So Dan Cole had to come on and their scrums were under pressure. The South African scrum was so dominant and the English just couldn't do anything about it. They didn't have a substitute for that prop. And South Africa got a lot of penalties from scrum time. I remember at a stage it was 6 scrum penalties against England and only 1 against South Africa. So for a long time there was just back and forth goal kicks, penalties over the poles. So at the end, what would matter the most is who has the most territory, who can play in the opposition's half. And that's what South Africa did really well, keeping them back in their own half, keeping the English back in their half, kicking at that stages. And then when you're in their half, start running with the ball. And they did it perfectly. Pollard, he missed 1 kick in the beginning of the game. I still said in the live recording, hopefully this is the last one. Get that one out of your system. And then from there on, 100%. And that is what he did. Something the English did a little bit better than the South Africans. Every time they got into the South African territory, they actually got points from it. Look, they could not get a try. They got 3 points every time. Nothing more. The South African defense was just so strong. No gaps. Nienaber, the coach, is so good at defense. He's being hinted to take over the coaching of the Springboks now. It would maybe make sense. Him and Rassie Erasmus has a very good relationship. They coached together at the Cheetahs, the Stormers, Munster, and now going at the Springboks. So I think it would be a good relationship between him and the director of rugby if that did work like that. Just to give you a little bit of a hint of how good the defense was, there was a stage in the first half where England was camped on the South African line for 20 plus phases and they just could not get over. Just before halftime the score was 6-all, but the halftime score eventually was 12-6 for South Africa, just with more penalties coming over from South Africa, keeping the English in their half, making them make the mistake. So the discipline of the English was letting them down early in the game. Rassie ensured the scrums didn't get any easier after halftime. Early in the half, he brought on Kitshoff and Koch just to make that scrums even stronger. Those guys are very strong scrummagers. So then that just put the English under the pump again. Just building on what you are doing. Close to the 60th minute, The score led by 18-9 for the South Africans. And then the English got one scrum penalty. That's why they got that 3 points. After Kitsov's boot slipped out under him. So I still see it as a victory at scrum time. And then there was more penalties also from Pollard to get to that score. And some mauls that also went running. So the forward pack just dominated. I said before the game, the forwards had 146 more caps than the English forward pack. So they used that to their advantage. Then Mapimpi scored his sensational try. A massive try where he ran next to the line, kicked it over. Received it back. Gave a great pass out to Mapimpi, and Mapimpi scored. Garcia did refer it up to being look over from the TMO. Skeen looked it over. He deemed no clear and obvious forward pass, and yes, it was not clear and obvious. I agree totally. I don't think it's because I'm just South African. I do think a clear and obvious, that was the question. Garcia said he says it's a try. Just any clear and obvious evidence of a forward pass can rule it out. All those passes looked in line to me, so I think it was still fine. Nothing was clear and obvious like it was stated. That stretched the lead a little bit, but then a few minutes later, Chesil and Colby just stood up there, ran around, who was it, Marler, and then stepped Farrell, who is known for not being the best tackler. Stepped Farrell, he swung around Colby, and Colby just jogged in and scored the match winning try. It was down and out by that point. I thought we needed 2 or so more minutes with the score being what it was, then we would win. But then Colby just gave the end blow, and the end score was 32-12. And the stats completely agree with what I said. On offense, South Africa only had 46% of the ball, of the possession, but on territory 57%, and they scored 2 tries with that. So they just had little ball, but they kept the English back in their half. England, they actually beat more defenders when running with the ball, and they got more clean breaks. England also had more passes in the game and offloads, but they just could not get forward. That defense line kept them back. I mean, they just could not keep the ball. They conceded 18 turnovers to South Africa. On defense, South Africa 175 tackles to the 98 of England. South Africa did miss 13 and England missed 11, so that sounds a little bit high, but when you look at it percentage wise, South Africa made 94% of their tackles, England 87%. 87% is already a high benchmark for any team. Pushing it up to 94, then you are getting to really world class standards, and that's why they won at the end. South Africa won 78% of all the scrums that happened in the match. Doesn't matter whose throw it is, doesn't matter what it was. 78% was for South Africa. And then penalty wise, it was 11-10. So that was pretty equal there. I think the English gave a lot of penalties away in their own half, but so did South Africa. That's why you saw the score being the same the whole time before the tries was scored. The guys that stood out in this game to me, Pieter Steph de Toey, he made 20 tackles in that game, out tackling anyone in the side. Vermeulen, 27 meters, 10 carries, 7 tackles. That's why he got man of the match. He just had an all-round performance. Mapimpi, 1 try, 19 meters. Colby, 1 try, 32 meters from 4 carries. 3 defenders beaten in these 4 carries. So every time he ran, basically he beat someone. And then he made 10 tackles as well. He's just so brave on defense. Pollard, 9 tackles. And also remember, he made most of the points in this whole game for South Africa with his 2 conversions and then only missing 1 penalty. So he really needs to get a special mention. Then Faf de Klerk, 10 tackles and 9 kicks. And then he also passed even more this week. And that just surprised the English a lot. Guys, I hope you just enjoyed the game just as much as I did. It was awesome. The World Cup is over now. I'm going to spend the week. I'm going to have maybe a team of the week coming out tomorrow or the day after. And then I'm going to shift my attention over to a new competition. Something like Pro 14 maybe. Let me know what you think. I could maybe shift over to 7s. But I would ideally try and pick one competition. Just something to keep myself busy, because I mean I love rugby. I need to watch something before the Super Rugby starts next year. So let me know down in the comments below, what would you love seeing what content would you love seeing, and then also check out some of my other videos, and then I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.